He reincarnates into a different world, and despite his reputation as a bad boy, he somehow manages to win the love and respect of every girl in the world because of his limitless riz and his incapacity to conceal his tiny katana.
What the heck?
On a typical Japanese day, Kazuma was an ugly, disgusting gamer who always played games instead of paying attention in class. One day on his way home, he sees a girl from his school about to be struck by truck Khan. He saves her life by pushing her to the other side and getting hit instead. When he wakes up in the afterlife, a goddess named Aqua tells him that he passed away. Yes, he asks her about the girl, and she tells him that she is fine, which makes Kazuma realize that his death was not in vain. However, the goddess mocks him by revealing that his death was caused by shock, because he thought he was about to be struck by the truck. Aqua begins to cry out, "What kind of idiot are you? I've been a goddess for thousands of years, and no one has ever died like you." She goes on to explain that if he hadn't saved the girl, nothing would have happened to her because it was a small tractor, and it would have stopped before hitting her. You died of a heart attack, and then you urinated on yourself.
Stop it. Get some help.
She then goes on to make fun of him, telling him that she can either send him to heaven or another world. But if he goes to heaven, he won't find any girls or have sex there. Instead, he will live alone and be bored all his life. If she sends him to another world, however, he can choose any power to take with him. At this point, Kazuma points toward Aqua and says, "I want you to come with me." The goddess of light then appears, saying your wish will be fulfilled, and sends Aqua with Kazuma as they begin to teleport. "Please don't send me," Aqua protests. He bursts into a fit of laughter as Kazuma boastfully declares, "You made fun of me, goddess. Now, I'll take you to that world, and I'll observe all your magic drop by clapping day and night."
Oh my god!
The goddess of light teleports them both to a different world. When they arrive, Aqua breaks down in tears and asks, "How did I get stuck in this world with a bastard like you?" They ask the guild head how they can become adventurers, and she responds that all they have to do is bring 2 gold coins and give them to her. At this point, Aqua says, "We have to pay money to become adventurers. Take out your money and give it to them," Kazuma replied. "I forgot my purse in heaven," Aqua begins. They go and sit by themselves, lamenting their circumstances, when Kazuma, angry, remarks, "It seems you're of no use. Why did I bring you here?" Aqua claims to be a goddess and that a priest is seated there. She approaches the priest and requests money, saying, "I'm a goddess and my name is Aqua. Can you give me some money? I'll return all of it to you later." The priest replies, "I'll give you money, but stop lying about being a goddess. I don't worship Aqua. I feel alone, therefore I worship the goddess of light." Just after, Aqua returns to Kazuma with the money and asks, "I have no respect in this world. Why did I come here?" Both of them are taken to a crystal ball to check their power. Kazuma checks his power and finds no special abilities, but the guild master says he has a talent for picking things up quickly. When it's Aqua's turn, all of her levels are love, according to the guild master, but she also has the capacity to become a great priest. After that, the two of them become adventurers, and the members of the Adventurers Guild revere Aqua for her magical abilities. "Now the adventure begins in my other world," Kazuma adds, but they both wind up working hard as laborers every day, sleeping and doing the same tasks for months on end. When Kazuma finally explains to Aqua why they are living this way, they decide to go on an expedition and try to capture a frog monster, but instead the frog monster begins following Kazuma. Aqua starts taunting him, saying, "What kind of idiot are you? You're fleeing from a frog." Then a second frog shows up and devours Aqua. After Kazuma comes to her aid, Aqua breaks down in tears and begs, "Why does this always happen to me?" Every day, Kazuma and Aqua go to the guild, drink a lot of alcohol, and enjoy themselves while continuing to work hard and earn a little money. One day, Aqua posts a notice that they are looking for a team and that anyone who wants to join can come. A great witch known as the Crimson Demon sees the notice and approaches them, but Megumin impresses Kazuma with a huge explosion spell. But after the explosion, she faints. Kazuma, carrying Megumin on his back, asks her why she faints after using her magic, and why she used such a large explosion to kill a frog. Megumin reveals that because she is an extremely strong magician, she only knows that one spell. Like Aqua, Kazuma recognizes that she isn't very helpful either, but Aqua and Megumin are excited to join the team. Kazuma becomes irate and tells them to leave him alone because she can't have them on her team, but Megumin clings to him and makes a commotion, attracting the attention of 3 neighboring girls, who began spreading rumors regarding Kazuma's repulsive actions. Embarrassed, Kazuma begs Megumin to let him go, but she threatens to tell everyone about all the inappropriate things you've done to me if you don't accept me on your squad. After they all go to the guild and trade the frog kills for cash, seeing her, Kazuma begins to ask, "Who is this beautiful girl?" Darkness, a well-known adventurer, then enters the guild and says, "I want to join your team." When Kazuma's mouth begins to dribble with saliva, Darkness transforms into her actual self and begins speaking to Kazuma. She approaches him and says, "You can do whatever you want with me, but include me in your team. I want to be on your team because I've heard you do terrible things with girls."
Yeah, boy.
After hearing all of this, Kazuma becomes bashful since she has gotten so near to him that it seems like she is going to kiss him repeatedly.
Tell me about the women in your party. Why are they all slimy? You can use me as your shield. Yes, use me!
She then says, include me in your team, and we will both have a lot of fun.
Oh my god! Wow!
Because he is unable to control his little gun.
Being a shadow never trained me for face-to-face situations like this! No, it's my adolescent version hormones! They're being overloaded by her hotness!
Kazuma's heart begins to race, as if it were going to explode. He leaves with the excuse, I'm not feeling well right now, so we will talk about it later. But when he returns to the guild the next day, darkness still surrounds him. Kazuma begins to ask, what kind of dirty girl is she? I gave her an explanation to help her realize that I don't want to have her on my team, but she still shows up. Darkness begins by saying, take me on your team, and we're going to have a lot of fun. That and a friend of Darkness says, you don't have any magical power, Kazuma, but I can teach you how to steal this gold coin with my magical power. Kazuma learns this skill, and he tries summoning the magic.
What a truly savage act. I must join his party now!
The three of them go to the guild where Darkness is telling the story, and the girl is uncomfortable without clothes. When he sees all of this Megumin, he tries the magic on Megumin, but as soon as he does, he steals her panty. When Kazuma sees this, she starts crying, but he teases her with great fun, and she says, give me back my panty. Darkness then says, I'd want you to try this magic on me too. When the leader of the Adventurers Guild declares that there has been an attack, and that everyone must go out and stop the cabbages because they're attacking everyone, but Darkness still makes him do it. However, Darkness defends everyone with her large melons. Seeing all of this, everyone is having a good time. After they defeat the cabbages, they cook and eat them. Then, Aqua goes and fights with the head of the Adventurers Guild, saying, I caught a lot of cabbages, but why are you giving me so little money? She snatches her juicy melons and begins to say that they will receive less money in return because they are not worth much. Later, Megumin and Kazuma go to a field to practice their powers and begin using their magical abilities to attack a castle.
Creation! Learn eternity to certainty!
Continue to do this every day in order to strengthen her powers, and he doesn't stop her. Whether it's raining or storming, he comes every day and attacks that castle for years. After everything is done, the demon arrives. He is the commander of the 7th Squadron of the Demon King's army. He enters the Adventurers Guild and says, spells it.
You are the imbecile who's been have the decency to announce yourself properly before you attack!
Everyone is shocked to learn that the monster has no head, but Kazuma and Megumin keep this to themselves. They begin fighting the demon, and when Darkness steps in, she asks, what wrong things do you want to do with me? You want to take me to your castle and do dirty things with me. After saying all of this, she begins to flush. The demon begins to say, I'm leaving you now, but next time, if any of you people do this, I will eliminate you. As the demon leaves, Darkness begins to follow him, saying I have to go with you, but Kazuma catches her. When the demon leaves, she tells the 4 of them, this is my last warning to all of you. As they leave, the demon curses Darkness and walks away, but Aqua uses her magical abilities to remove the curse. This concludes part 1. If this video receives more views, I will only continue this franchise. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and like and share the video as much as you can.
The story begins with a man who is killed by a demon and then reincarnates in another world. Then he sees his skills and realizes he can absorb anyone's skills after eating them. He thinks he reincarnates as a behemoth. After that, we see a hot chick elf girl today's day and goes to a dungeon. After that, when that man sees his face, he realizes he is reincarnated as a cat with extraordinary skills. Then he sees a demon Lord Rimuru from that time I got reincarnated as a slime and decides to eat him and absorb his skills. After eating him, he gets infinite storage and decides to kill more creatures. He attacks a wyvern, kills it, and eats it. After that, he sees an anaconda that is bigger than mine.
What did he say?
And kills it and eats it. Then we see Arya-chan riding on a boat, and a sailor is enjoying the view from the top. About imagining about Arya-chan. She reaches near a dungeon and shows her gold card, but the soldier is dreaming of looking at her pink card. On the other side, after killing the anaconda, the cat sees a treasure chest and gets excited because in his previous life, he didn't find any. He opens the treasure chest and finds a transport crystal that teleports him to a dragon. The creature starts saying, I sentence you to death, and starts attacking. The cat fights back, but the dragon can't get any damage. The dragon says, you are weak, and cat flies using his skill called Aether Edge. The cat starts thinking, just a little further, I will be free, but suddenly faints. Then we see Arya-chan enter the dungeon and see the fainted cat. She reaches there to help him. The cat wakes up and feels strange about where he is and thinks he should have died in the dungeon. A lady moves closer to the cat and is happy he woke up. The cat wonders who the lady is and if he is in heaven. The lady introduces herself as Arya-chan and starts talking to the cat about how she met him while going into the dungeon on a quest. He has not even eaten since he reincarnated because monsters do not have much appetite. He is given kitty milk and he goes ahead to drink it. He promised to serve and protect his lifesaver as a true knight. The cat ran towards the way his master went. He decided to look after that girl and make Arya his master because she saved his life and decided to go with her without Arya noticing. Only E-rank goblins appeared to attack. Area-chan stood up and fought the goblins. The cat marveled at how his master fought with the knives. Then suddenly, one goblin started attacking from behind, but thanks to her cat, who saved her with his power, Area-chan was surprised and wondered why the cat came to the dungeon and also how she was saved by him. She thought the cat was no ordinary cat. As he expected, his master caressed him and thanked him for saving her. He felt so relieved as he was placed on her juicy melons, and he got angry when a man stopped them. The man, who was an S-rank adventurer, invited Area-chan to join his party and was trying to flirt with her, but Area-chan turned him down, saying she was not interested in joining a party with a man. He kept pushing further with his dirty game, and that pissed off the jealous cat, who cursed the man looking at her with filthy eyes. Then the cat started attacking him and bit the man. The angry man got upset and moved ahead to kill the cat, but he was stopped by the guild's receptionist, Anna-san, who was an X-rank adventurer. The man lied to Anna-san, saying he was just showing off his sword and ran away out of fear. Anna-san noticed the cat seemed promising and looked like a knight. Area-chan told her the cat was her friend and had saved her when she was attacked earlier by a goblin in the dungeon. Area-chan announced she would officially raise the cat as her pet from today on, and she named him Tama-chan. The cat, whose name is now Tama-chan, was happy he would be able to accompany his master without hesitation. Area-chan invited Tama-chan for a bath, and he felt it was absurd for a proud knight like him to bathe with a female, but he did not have a choice. After all, he's his master's knight, and he needs to stay close to her in case anything happens. Area-chan asked Tama-chan if she would ever become strong again and told him the story of how she was attacked by demonic troops years ago in the country where she used to live. It was then that the Master Fencer appeared. Tama-chan remembered he had heard about the Master Fencer and how he saved the entire country alone before and had always wished to be like him. Tama-chan then made a promise that day to his master to protect her until the day she achieved her ambitions. A little while after bathing, when they got to the Adventure Guild, she told them that it was not the right time because the man had just brought bad news to her. The bad news was that Tama-chan would be slain for injuring the Baron's son. Tama-chan immediately thought of running away to avoid being slain, but he still could not leave his master because of the vow he had made to her. The man told him the only solution was to have a duel with him, and if she won, the decree would be revoked and he would take her as a wife. I, as an editor, always knew this filthy man's eyes were always on my area's juicy melons. Tama-chan felt so bad that he could not protect his master and promised to make the man pay for making his master cry. The duel began between the D-rank adventurer and Area-chan. The man told Area-chan to surrender as her cat was powerless and her moves were too simple. He wanted to attack her with a knife, but Tama-chan jumped into the scene and saved his master from getting stabbed. His only duty is protecting his master with his life. While the fight was going on, Tama-chan got hurt, and the man told Area-chan that it would have been avoided if only she had accepted to be his wife. Tama-chan told his master not to surrender as he would do everything to save her. He would have to use a non-magical skill, but he would be found out if he did that. All of a sudden, Tama-chan used one of his skills, Iron Shield, and the man suddenly went flying and landed on the floor. Area-chan was confused if it was Tama-chan that did that, and in the end, she was able to defeat the man. Area-chan was declared the winner, and she thanked Tama-chan for saving her. On the other hand, she scolded him and warned him not to do something dangerous like that next time. Anna-san told Area-chan that the skill Tama-chan used at the end was so strong that he thought he was a monster, but he thought he had come across an elemental cat with racial skills that understand human language and emotion. After that, they went to their home and slept together. The cat was happy, and that's where episode 1 ends. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and watch our best videos in end screen.
In this world, people gain unique abilities by eating the fruit of the skill tree. These abilities range from becoming a powerful firebender to a legendary sword saint. However, for Light, his skill was far less impressive. He became a nutting master. The day of the skill ceremony was one of excitement and hope. Light and his childhood friend, Lena, walked together to the church, eagerly discussing their potential skills. Light had always dreamed of being an adventurer, so any combat-oriented skill would do. Lena, on the other hand, didn't care what skill she received, as long as she could stay by Light's side. Despite her nervousness, Light reassured her that they would both gain incredible skills. At the church, the Holy Sister explained the rules of the skill fruits. Eating a fruit would grant a skill tied to a specific profession, ensuring a secure job without the burden of student loans. However, there was a strict immutable rule. No one could eat more than one skill fruit. Consuming a second would result in certain death, a warning cemented by the tales of countless victims who had ignored it. Lena was the first to choose. As she bit into her fruit, her body radiated. Light cheered for his friend, overjoyed by her success, before stepping up to claim his own skill. Nervously, he took a bite of his chosen fruit, but instead of gaining an awe-inspiring combat ability, he was blessed, or cursed, to console him. But the truth was clear. His ability was limited to farming nuts. Negotiable. Lena, ever supportive, promised to stay in the village and help Light grow nuts. However, the Holy Sister had other plans. Lena's talent as a sword saint was too precious to squander, and the sister insisted she leave for the royal cabinet, promising Light she would return for him one day. 3 months passed. Light had embraced his role as a farmer, using his skill to grow and sell high-quality nuts. Though his profits were modest, he tried to stay positive. However, the pain of Lena's absence lingered, and news of her rapid rise to S-rank adventurer only deepened his sense of inadequacy. This day, he practiced with a sword, striking at a tree stump in vain. Exhausted and One evening, his young ward, Aya, interrupted, taken in by Light, and the two had since formed a makeshift family. She invited him inside for dinner, proudly serving a stew she had made. Light praised her effort, but as he ate, Aya casually mentioned using the special fruits he had stored in boxes marked with skull symbols, supposed to be fatal. Light braced himself for the end, his body racked with heat and pain. Yet, as moments passed, he realized he wasn't dying. Instead, a surge of power coursed through him, accompanied by the emergence of a second skill, Sword God. Aya, too, began experiencing changes. She had unknowingly acquired an appraisal skill from the skill granted resistance when wielding a sword, making him far more powerful than he'd ever dreamed. Eager to test his newfound strength, Light raced to the forest. With a single swing of his sword, he effortlessly cleaved the tree stump and the massive tree behind it in two. Overwhelmed with excitement, he decided it was time to pursue his dream of becoming an adventurer. The next day, Light ventured to the guild, determined to prove his worth. For the first time in his life, he felt that his dreams were within reach. Armed with his newfound skills and an unwavering determination, Light prepared to carve a new path for himself, one that would reunite him with Lena and allow him to stand beside her as an equal. Light had always dreamed of becoming an adventurer, and today might be his chance. After gaining his newfound powers, he visited the Adventurers Guild to officially begin his journey. Turning to Aya, he said, "Stay here on this bench, appraisal skill, to scan the other adventurers in the guild, mastery." But she also found some skills shockingly useless, like one man who had a self-damaging ability. Just then, a commotion broke out near the front desk. Looking over, Aya saw Light in the middle of an argument with another adventurer. The man at the center of the dispute recognized Light as the nut seller from the market and mocked him, claiming that someone like Light didn't belong in the guild. But Light ignored the taunts entirely and calmly turned to Aya, saying, "Let's go." The man, offended by being ignored, lashed out and attacked Light with his sword. However, thanks to his Sword God skill, Light's reflexes were far superior, slicing the slime in half with a single swing. The ground cracked beneath his blade, a testament to his overwhelming strength. Aya cheered for Light's first successful quest, but they still had work to do. To complete the task, they needed to carve up the slime's remains and return the parts to the guilding. Their task was interrupted by a distant shout. Rushing toward the sound, they found Jean, the adventurer who had mocked Light earlier, and his party under attack by a massive ogre. The group had picked an easy slime quest, but had run into this far deadlier creature by mistake. The ogre swung its massive club, forcing the group to dodge. They were clearly outmatched. Jean, spotting Light, quickly came up with a plan. He and his friends ran straight toward him, hoping to use Light as bait to escape. Realizing they're in defense, to push himself. "If I want to be the world's greatest adventurer, I have to overcome this," he thought. Channeling his newfound strength, Light leapt into the air, dodging another attack, and slashed the ogre's club in half. The creature roared in frustration, but Light was undeterred. In one swift motion, he brought his friends. Jean explained that the S-rank party had just returned, and among them was Lena, Light's childhood friend and the person he'd been striving to catch up to. This was the first time he'd seen her in 3 months. Excited, Light approached Lena, calling out to her. But to his shock, she looked at him with cold eyes and said,
Takumi is unexpectedly summoned to another world, finding himself standing before the goddess Nolan. However, the first thing she does is apologize sincerely, explaining that it was all a huge mistake. When the summoning spell is cast, it randomly selects individuals from Earth to become heroes in the new world. Takumi's life had been going well, and he was never meant to be summoned, but an error during the spell dragged him here along with the others. The mistake is blamed on the Holy Sidonia Empire, who recklessly activated the forbidden summoning spell. Because of this, Takumi was not sent to Sidonia like the other heroes, but instead to Nolan. Takumi asks Nolan if she can send him back to Earth, given that he was brought here by mistake. Unfortunately, Nolan explains that she cannot. Out of frustration over Sidonia's actions, Nolan had erased the summoning spell from the world's magic laws, making it impossible for anyone to move between worlds anymore. Worse yet, Takumi's original body had perished in the process, leaving him as a disembodied spirit. Panicking at the realization that he's a ghost, Takumi is reassured by Nolan that she has a plan. While she can't send him back, she can give him a new body and allow him to become a citizen of this world. As an apology, Nolan also offers him her blessing to make his new life easier. Takumi, with little choice, agrees to be reborn in this world, which pleases Nolan. She then instructs him to open his status screen to review his new life. Takumi is surprised to find that Nolan has given him a 17-year-old body, even though he's actually 40 years old. Nolan brushes off his concerns about the minor details and urges him to choose a job class. Takumi, not wanting to fight, opts for a production-based job rather than a combat class. Nolan then implants the job into his soul, along with several other beneficial blessings. She sends him on his way, forgetting to provide him with any tutorials. Takumi crashes into a forest upon his rebirth, and after picking himself up, checks his reflection in a nearby river. He's now a completely different person, with no memory of his old body. Inside the bag Nolan left for him, Takumi finds food rations and money, ensuring that he won't starve. His status screen reveals that Nolan has equipped him with many useful skills, including elemental magic. Curious, Takumi tests out his new powers by forming a water ball in his hand. He quickly learns that all the elements work in the same way, and he can control them with ease. Now that he understands his magic, Takumi decides to head to the nearest village. On his way, Takumi stumbles across a stick lying in the path. Using his appraisal skill, he identifies it as Trent Wood, a material useful for crafting magic staves and spears. Deciding to try out his crafting abilities, he uses his skills to make a spear. He then spends the next hour gathering useful plants nearby, filling his item box with the plants when he realizes they won't fit in his bag. Suddenly, a young girl runs toward him, calling for help. She explains that a monster is chasing her, and Takumi soon sees a massive horned rabbit charging toward them. In a panic, Takumi attempts to defend himself, but in an accidental twist of fate, he ends up stabbing the rabbit in the head, killing it instantly. Surprised by his victory, Takumi realizes it was due to luck, not skill. As a result of the encounter, Takumi gains the job title of warrior, a class he didn't want. After ensuring the girl Molly is unharmed, Takumi learns she was out gathering herbs when she wandered too far from the village. Takumi, feeling it would be wasteful to leave it behind, stashes the rabbit in his item box. Realizing too late that he revealed his ability, he decides there's no turning back. As they approach the village, the other summoned heroes are arriving at Sidonia, confused and disoriented. They are introduced to Empress Elizabeth, who tells them they have been summoned to save the world. However, one of the heroes, Akana, feels instinctively that Elizabeth cannot be trusted, as her gut tells her the Empress is deceptive. Meanwhile, Takumi and Molly arrive at the village where her parents, Benga and Martha, express gratitude for Takumi's help. Takumi asks if he can stay in the village for a while, as he has nowhere else to go. The couple welcomes him but explains that there is no inn in the village. However, they suggest building him a house, and soon all the villagers gather to start construction. Takumi uses his earth magic to flatten the ground, but using such a large-scale spell drains his mana. The villagers are amazed at his power, and the next morning his house is completed, thanks to his skills in carpentry, blacksmithing, and sewing. Takumi then decides to practice alchemy using ores he gathered to extract metal. He successfully turns iron ore into usable material, but finds that the process consumes a lot of mana, leading him to nearly pass out. He's saved by Martha and Benga, who give him a recovery potion. Despite their warnings, Takumi continues to experiment with his alchemy skills, eventually making useful tools and weapons. Later, Takumi asks Benga for some basic potions to use as templates for his own creations. After making his own potions with herbs he collected, he compares them to Benga's potions. Takumi's version appears more magical, but unsure of its effects, he tests it by building poison tolerance, consuming the potion until he nearly dies, then healing himself. One day, Takumi encounters a massive boar and a poison spider. The boar charges at him, and despite his attempts to defend himself with magic and a spear, nothing works. Just as he's about to be overrun, the spider intervenes, attacking the boar. Takumi, seeing the opportunity, uses alchemy to break down the boar's head, defeating it. The spider is injured, but Takumi heals it, and it ends up becoming his pet, which he names Maple. Returning to the village, Takumi shows off the giant boar and his new pet spider. The villagers are amazed, especially by the fact that he managed to tame such a dangerous creature. Takumi suggests they share the boar meat since it's too much for him to eat alone, and a feast is held in his honor. Benga brings him the valuable leftovers, which can be sold for money in the nearest city, Bolton. Takumi decides that his next destination will be Bolton. All the while, Goddess Nolan watches Takumi's progress with satisfaction. She is pleased with how well he is adapting to this new world. One of her fellow goddesses asks her what she hopes to achieve with her special treatment of Takumi, but Nolan claims she's just doing what feels right, without any specific goal in mind. As the episode ends, it seems that Takumi's journey in this new world is just beginning. The anime opens with the Demon King summoning what are said to be the 4 strongest generals in his demon army. The first is Aladora, the warrior of hell. The second is Scyllid, the Grand Mage of Storms. The third is Gnome, the Earth Fortress. Lastly, there is a newly appointed general who appears shocked and bewildered by his sudden arrival, Uchimura, the director of operations, who turns out to be the protagonist of the story. The scene shifts to Uchimura's past. He was once a simple office worker, full of hope and ambition to achieve great success. Unfortunately, things didn't go as planned. His colleagues were promoted one after another while he remained overlooked and unappreciated. A turning point came when his manager transferred him overseas to a factory still under construction, an infamous location known as a graveyard for failures. Uchimura moved to the new town with a glimmer of hope. When he reached out to his manager for help, he was met with anger and accusations of wasting company resources. Despite this, Uchimura refused to give up. Determined to succeed, he poured all of his efforts into revitalizing the factory, doing everything himself from organizing to cleaning and more. Over time, his hard work paid off. The workers began to respect and support him, and the factory started to thrive. Just when things were finally improving, an unexpected blow came. His manager decided to transfer him to another factory in a different country. Devastated, Uchimura questioned the purpose of his efforts. One day, while lost in thought on the street, a motorcycle suddenly hit him from behind. In that moment, he found himself transported to the realm of the Demon King. At first, Uchimura believed he had landed in hell. The Demon King welcomed him warmly, calling him by name. Shocked, Uchimura asked how the Demon King knew his name. The Demon King confidently replied, "Of course I know you, I summon you here." He explained that after reviewing Uchimura's professional history, he was certain Uchimura was the perfect candidate to become the 4th general in his army. Uchimura, still conflicted, responded that joining the Demon King's army sounded like a descent into the depths of the underworld. However, the Demon King interrupted, assuring him, "I'll provide you with all the benefits and perks you could ask for. You'll have complete freedom to choose anyone you want to work under you, and your salary will match that of top executives in your world. Uchimura was taken aback by the offer, struggling to process what he was hearing. The Demon King added, "If you're not satisfied, I'll send you back to your world." Relieved by the Demon King's respect for his autonomy, Uchimura began to reconsider. The other generals, however, protested. They voiced their disbelief that a weak human like Uchimura could ever become a general in the demon army. Uchimura thought to himself that they were probably right, but the Demon King remained unfazed, declaring, "If all of you object, then we'll put him to the test." Uchimura was stunned. The Demon King explained, "If he passes the test, none of you will have any grounds to object." Mandora, driven by her fascination with the supernatural powers of individuals from another world, decided to test these claims herself. She launched a devastating attack on Uchimura. Before her attack could land, the Demon King intervened, halting her assault. When Mandora demanded an explanation for his interference, he calmly pointed out her tendency to lose control when angered. He directed her attention to Uchimura, who had collapsed from the overwhelming shock of the incident. The onlookers, stunned by the scene, expressed disbelief, noting that Uchimura was nothing more than an ordinary human. The Demon King affirmed this fact, prompting Mandora to question how someone so ordinary could hold the position of one of his generals. Despite her objections, the Demon King stood by his decision, explaining that Uchimura's presence in the army was deliberate. The Demon King acknowledged the internal challenges within his forces, but emphasized that Uchimura's intelligence and strategic thinking were precisely what the army needed. The Demon King revealed that Uchimura's first test would be to secure an agreement with the Minotaur army. This revelation left Uchimura stunned, comparing the challenge to the difficulty of a high-stakes job interview. The Demon King informed Uchimura that he could turn to Mandora for assistance if needed and left him to face the daunting task ahead. Mandora interrupted his thoughts, announcing their arrival at their destination, a massive door, which she identified as the entrance to the Minotaur leader's chamber. As the door creaked open, Uchimura was overwhelmed by fear at the sight of the towering Minotaur leader. The leader's imposing figure made Uchimura doubt whether peaceful negotiation was even possible. Sensing his hesitation, Mandora offered to help, sharing some tips on negotiation. Uchimura felt a brief sense of relief, but it quickly evaporated as her abrasive approach immediately angered the Minotaur leader. Observing the chaos, Uchimura silently concluded that Mandora was ill-suited for diplomacy. After leaving the chamber, Mandora explained that the negotiations had initially been going well but collapsed when the leader outright rejected the proposed conditions. She admitted to multiple failed attempts to negotiate in the past, and in her frustration, blamed the Minotaur leader for being unreasonable. Turning to Uchimura, she declared it was now his turn to handle the negotiations, leaving him speechless and unsure of how to proceed. Standing alone, Uchimura questioned how he could possibly persuade such an intimidating creature. In his uncertainty, a memory surfaced of difficult negotiations he had faced in his previous life. During challenging times, he would retreat to a quiet tavern to clear his mind and find clarity. Recalling how he had always managed to overcome obstacles, he steadied himself, drawing upon his past experiences and resolving to succeed in the negotiations, no matter what lay ahead. The focus shifted to the Demon King, where Mandora provided an update on Uchimura's situation. The Demon King, maintaining his composure, expressed confidence in waiting to see how Uchimura's negotiations would unfold. Later, Mandora stumbled upon Uchimura surrounded by piles of trash, rummaging through the mess as requested by the Minotaur leader. Several filled bags sat neatly beside him. She remarked on how quickly he had taken control of the negotiations. The following day, Uchimura entered the Minotaur leader's chamber. Mandora, unable to suppress her curiosity, decided to check on the progress. To her surprise, the room was filled with heaps of the Minotaur leader's trash, but neither Uchimura nor the leader was present. Confused, she speculated that the negotiations might have failed, prompting the leader to leave. At that moment, Uchimura appeared calmly, explaining that the Minotaur leader was with the Demon King finalizing the agreement. Mandora, baffled, demanded to know what had happened. Uchimura revealed that the agreement had been completed the previous day. Stunned, Mandora questioned how he managed to strike a deal with someone so notoriously stubborn in just one day. Uchimura explained to her that she had misunderstood the situation. She believed the Minotaur leader was rejecting the negotiations, but in reality, the negotiations were progressing smoothly. The issue, he said, was the negotiation approach. He shared an experience from his past with a client who initially rejected everything, but later agreed once trust was established through clear, passionate, and emotionally driven explanations of the terms. Uchimura pointed out that the failure in Mandora's negotiations stemmed from the Minotaur leader not understanding the terms or the purpose of the negotiations. He also highlighted that the straw requested by the leader was an important gesture of goodwill in their culture, as the Minotaurs used straw to accommodate guests, sleeping on it to avoid overcrowding their rooms with furniture. The leader had been frustrated because he couldn't sleep comfortably on the ground. Hearing this, Mandora felt a pang of regret, realizing that the failure had been due to her inability to understand the Minotaur leader. However, the Minotaur leader interrupted, admitting that the fault was mutual. He hadn't understood her negotiation style either and apologized to her. They shook hands, reconciling their differences. The Minotaur leader then expressed gratitude to Uchimura, thanking him for making the agreement possible. At that moment, the Demon King appeared and praised Uchimura's unique talent for identifying unnoticed problems and resolving them effectively. He then formally welcomed Uchimura as a general in his army, declaring that no one could doubt his abilities after the success of this test. He said to who the reluctant finally agreed with the decision. The Demon King then asked Uchimura to extend his hand. He presented him with an emblem symbolizing his status as one of the four generals. After putting it on, Uchimura was instructed by the Demon King to always act decisively and do what he believed was right without hesitation. Uchimura felt a deep sense of pride and pledged to fulfill his role with dedication. Mandora, in her usual sharp tone, asked Uchimura to raise his hand. When he seemed confused, she scolded him and explained that this was their way of welcoming new comrades. She then declared that she hadn't fully acknowledged him yet and demanded that he prove himself further by succeeding in more negotiations. The Demon King concluded by stating that the army was still incomplete and had many issues to address. However, with Uchimura leading the way, they would advance and achieve greatness.
Our new anime begins with our protagonist, An, standing at the edge of a cliff. Tired of the world and overwhelmed by despair, he decides to end his life, believing he is the weakest in existence. As he takes the fateful leap, we rewind to the past to understand how he arrived at this moment. An was once part of a party with two individuals, Zoid, a magician, and Jolene, a swordsman. Together, they descended into a dungeon to hunt monsters and earn money. The trio successfully defeated a giant rat, but the task of salvaging its valuable parts fell to An. As an appraiser, a low common class job, An was tasked with identifying and extracting useful materials. Zoid mockingly referred to An as a trash picker, a term commonly used to demean appraisers. In this world, one's status and future are determined at birth. The goddess of light grants individuals their job, while the goddess of darkness bestows their skills. While skills can be trained and leveled up, the assigned job is permanent and passed down through generations. The society is divided into three classes: rare classes like merchants and strategists, high common classes with combat roles, and low common classes, which include appraisers and farming-related jobs. An, born into a low common class family, lost his parents early in life and was unable to continue the family business. With no other options, he became an adventurer despite his appraiser status. Unlike combatants, appraisers were often looked down upon since their skills could be replicated by magic tools and guilds. This made An a target of ridicule and mistreatment, particularly by Zoid, who hired An specifically to avoid getting his own hands dirty. After defeating the giant rat, An noticed its tooth was valuable, but struggled to pry its mouth open. He asked Zoid for help, but Zoid sneered, insisting An do it himself. With no choice, An complied, enduring the insults and humiliation. However, deeper in the dungeon, they stumbled upon a dead hellhound. Zoid, elated by the potential loot, ordered An to extract its parts. An, however, found the situation suspicious. Finding a dead B-rank monster without any signs of battle was unusual. He tried to warn Zoid and Jolene, but they dismissed his concerns, threatening to withhold his share of the earnings if he didn't comply. Reluctantly, An obeyed. But as they ventured further, they found an entire horde of dead hellhounds. Zoid and Jolene celebrated their apparent luck, while An's instincts screamed that something was wrong. His suspicions were confirmed when the real perpetrator of the carnage emerged, a monstrous creature far beyond their capabilities. Chaos ensued as Zoid and Jolene attempted to fight, but quickly realized they were outmatched. In desperation, Zoid ordered Jolene to cast a paralyzing spell on An, using him as bait to escape. Jolene complied without hesitation, and the treacherous duo fled, leaving An to face the horde alone. The monsters descended upon An, tearing into him as he lay paralyzed. The excruciating pain eventually broke the spell, and An managed to throw his bag forward, using its contents as a distraction to flee. However, his escape route was destroyed by the very couple who betrayed him. Left with no way back and monsters closing in, An found himself at a dead end, a sheer cliff before him, and death behind him. Overwhelmed by regret for his weakness and the cruel life he'd endured, An chose to leap off the cliff, embracing death on his own terms. As he fell, memories and regrets surged through him. However, instead of meeting his end, An awoke in a mysterious place. A beautiful girl appeared, gently kissed his forehead, and disappeared. When he fully regained consciousness, he found himself beneath the World Tree, a colossal tree of legend. The tree was thought to have withered long ago, yet here it stood, vibrant and alive. Its water droplets, known to cure all diseases, poured down on An, healing him completely. Scholars had long theorized that the World Tree still existed, as it was believed to be the source of the mana in the atmosphere. Though countless expeditions had sought it, none had succeeded, until now. An, overwhelmed with gratitude, thanked the tree for saving his life. He briefly thought he heard a voice, but dismissed it as his imagination. Realizing he couldn't stay forever, An resolved to find a way out of this uncharted territory. However, just a few steps into his journey, a sudden slash severed An's ear, followed by another attack that cut his fingers. He was ambushed by an S-class monster, a creature of immense power. The monster toyed with An, torturing him for its own amusement. As he lay helpless, the creature prepared to deliver the final blow. But before it could, a death bear, a monstrous predator, appeared and crushed the S-class monster in a brutal attack. The death bear then turned its attention to An, mauling and blinding him in a savage assault. Just as it was about to kill him, An was miraculously saved by an unknown figure at the mysterious girl's request. Once again, An awoke beneath the World Tree, his body fully healed. This time, he finally saw the girl, a stunning and enigmatic elf who had been watching over him. Ian woke up again, this time finding the mysterious girl from before standing by his bedside. Her mother urged him to drink the tea her daughter had prepared. Before Ian could say a word, the woman insisted, stuffing the tea into his hands. It tasted good, which made the girl Yuri smile brightly, though her mother, Ursula, looked far less pleased. Yuri introduced herself and explained that she had begged her mother to save Ian. When Ian thanked her, Yuri humbly refused to take the credit. But Ursula clarified that it was indeed her daughter's pleading that had moved her to act. Ian learned that Ursula was the guardian of one of the 9 world trees scattered across the land. She had raised Yuri, who was born from the tree itself, which explained Yuri's ethereal beauty. However, Ursula remained on edge, clearly disapproving of Ian getting close to her daughter. Then, Ian remembered his missing eye, which had been slashed by the death bear. Ursula explained that she had replaced it with a fragment of the world tree, again at Yuri's request. Ian asked Yuri why she had gone to such lengths for him, and she revealed that he was the first person who had ever thanked her for saving them. In the past, she had rescued others, only for them to harm her by taking branches from her tree form. When Ian thanked Yuri again, Ursula impatiently declared it was time for him to leave. However, Ian's weakened state made it clear that he wouldn't survive. Despite this, Ursula was unmoved until Yuri pleaded with her, tears streaming down her face. Reluctantly, Ursula agreed to train Ian, stating that she would not tolerate any slacking. Training began immediately. Ursula led Ian to a dark, pitch-black dungeon and instructed him to use his new spirit eye, which was imbued with the world tree's power. As Ian focused, he began to sense the power within the eye and could see clearly in the darkness. For the first stage of training, Ursula summoned a gremlin, instructing Ian to dodge its attacks. She explained that combining his spirit eye with his appraisal skill would sharpen his observational abilities to an extraordinary degree. At first, Ian struggled, but with repeated efforts and the healing properties of the world tree droplet Yuri had given him, he began to improve. After a week of relentless practice, Ian mastered basic defensive techniques. Next came offense. Lacking combat skills, Ian was initially unsure how to proceed, but Ursula handed him a wooden sword crafted from one of Yuri's branches. She warned him not to break it. Ian's first attempts to counter the gremlin's attacks failed. However, with Ursula's guidance, he learned to use his spirit eye to observe the gremlin's movements in slow motion. This allowed him to land a decisive blow, defeating the creature and earning his first victory against a monster. But there were many more gremlins in the dungeon. Over time, Ian developed his skills, eventually learning to use his appraisal ability to copy the gremlin's unique techniques. The process was grueling, causing him immense pain, but the world tree droplet allowed him to push through. Finally, Ursula decided Ian was ready for advanced training. She allowed him to copy her own powerful skill, Scar Incantation, which allowed spells to be cast instantly with just a thought. While Ian initially struggled to handle the immense power of the ability, he gradually adapted, training his magic reserves until they could sustain the skill. After a month of relentless training, Ursula deemed Ian ready to face the death bear once more. Ian was nervous, but Ursula's confidence in him gave him the courage to step forward. The battle was intense. Ian's initial attacks missed, and his spells barely scratched the beast. However, he combined his spirit eye and newly learned techniques, using close quarters wind magic and relentless fireballs to wear the creature down. Though the fight was reckless and chaotic, Ian finally landed the decisive blow, bringing the death bear down for good. As the battle ended, Ian stood victorious, battered but proud of his growth. His journey was just beginning, and greater challenges awaited. And with that, our episode ends. Stay tuned for the next chapter of this thrilling anime. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to receive updates. Until next time, take care and see you soon. Ursan Nevan was ready to leave, but as a parting gift, Ursula asked Yuri to give him the spirit core of the world tree. She had already infused one in his eye, and this second one held Yuri's power. Although Ian hesitated to accept, Ursula explained that once he died, the core would return to the world tree. Reluctantly, Ian agreed, and the core was infused into his eye. But then something unexpected happened. Yuri suddenly vanished and reappeared inside his eye. The spirit core had created a link between Ian and the tree, allowing Yuri to stay with him as a companion. Excited, Yuri offered her healing powers to assist Ian. Unsure how Ursula felt about the situation, Ian watched as Ursula explained she had done this for Yuri, giving her the chance to experience the outside world. As another gift, Ursula etched a new mark on Ian's hand, which worked as a storage spell. She also provided materials to forge a powerful sword, but in a surprising twist, she stabbed it into Ian's eye, binding it to him. Lastly, Ursula handed Ian a Philosopher's Stone, which created a permanent link with her. Now, she could see everything Ian experienced, and warned him not to try anything with Yuri. Ian asked Yuri what she wished to do once they reached the surface. Yuri expressed her desire to see her family, explaining how the world tree, once a single entity, had been split into 9 branches and hidden in various dungeons. Determined to make her wish come true, Ian took his first step outside. Guided by Ursula, Ian encountered a viper. He defeated it, and Yuri instantly healed him, sparing him the usual headaches from battles. Soon, Ian came across an ominous door, sensing it would lead to something dangerous. His instincts were correct. It was the dungeon's boss room. Inside, the dungeon itself revealed its dark nature. It consumed humans to sustain the boss, powered by a spirit core at its center. The fight was intense, with Ursula guiding Ian through every move. The boss landed a heavy blow, but Yuri's constant healing kept Ian in the fight. Using acid venom from a previous battle, Ian dissolved one of the boss's arms, throwing it into a frenzy. At this point, Ursula granted Ian permission to use the ultimate spell she had taught him. Ian trusted her guidance, unleashing a massive fire blast that obliterated the golem, leaving nothing behind, not even ash. The battle won, Ursula examined the spirit core, recognizing its similarity to the world tree core. She offered to use it to enhance Ian's powers, and he agreed. With the core's infusion, Ian's eye evolved into the spirit god eye, capable of further leveling up by absorbing labyrinth cores. The dungeon sealed itself, ensuring no one could reach the world tree again, allowing Yuri to live in peace. Finally, Ian and Yuri stepped into the outside world. Meanwhile, in a tavern, Zoid entertained the crowd with a dramatic tale of how he heroically sacrificed himself as bait to save Ian. However, Ian arrived just in time to expose Zoid's lies. Furious, Zoid claimed Ian couldn't have survived, but the crowd noticed Zoid's rage seemed out of place. Ian revealed how Zoid and Jolene had paralyzed him and left him for dead. The crowd turned against Zoid, but Ian stopped them. He acknowledged that if Zoid hadn't abandoned him, he never would have met Yuri and Ursula. Thanking Zoid, Ian left the tavern. Ian soon ventured into another dungeon and acquired its core to level up his eye, though there was no sign of a world tree. Ursula accepted this, understanding that finding the world tree wouldn't be easy. Yuri remained hopeful. During their journey, they heard a woman's voice and rushed to help. Monsters were attacking a group of survivors. Ian and Yuri saved everyone still alive, but one of them, a young woman named Claudia, instantly fell for Ian. Embarrassed, Ian asked her companion Jasper to intervene, only to learn he wasn't her brother. Jasper introduced himself as the head of J Trading Company, and Claudia revealed herself as the third princess of the kingdom. Grateful for their rescue, Jasper invited Ian and Yuri to his manor. Claudia, still smitten, boldly declared her interest in Ian. To deter her, Yuri claimed to be Ian's wife, but Claudia wasn't discouraged, suggesting she could become his second wife. While Yuri was flustered, Ursula found Claudia amusing, thinking she'd made a new friend. At the manor, Jasper revealed his true intentions. He recognized the spirit core in Ian's eye and recounted the legend of the World Tree's power, which was used to seal away the Demon King. Jasper wanted the spirit core to protect it in his collection. Though Ursula considered the idea, Ian refused. Instead, they decided to remain friends. Before parting, Ian asked Jasper about other spirit cores. Jasper shared what he knew, but the location he revealed was highly dangerous. With their next destination set, Ian and Yuri prepared for the journey ahead. Ein hurried over, knowing that Yuri's sister could be here. Since Yuri is a world tree, that meant the other world trees were her siblings. However, he quickly hit a dead end. Ursula, unfazed, told him to touch the wall. It was actually a gateway into the dungeon. The dungeon had its own atmosphere, but Ursula immediately saw through it. It was just a high-level illusion, though an incredibly massive one. Meanwhile, Yuri's sister, Pina, had already noticed their arrival. Yuri was eager to meet Pina immediately, but Pina, being her usual mischievous self, insisted they reach her by making their way to the end of the dungeon. She claimed she couldn't leave her place, so they had to come to her instead. The only issue? Pina had personally set up countless traps throughout the dungeon. It was a dangerous path, and she was particularly worried about Yuri's boyfriend. Yuri blushed at this, but Ein was more than ready for the challenge. Confident in her traps, Pina took a front row seat, fully expecting to enjoy the show. However, Ursula warned Ein about the dangers ahead, and he decided to speedrun Pina's trap game. To Pina's horror, Ein breezed through every obstacle with ease. Pina, watching helplessly, pouted as all her hard work was destroyed in an instant. Yuri still believed her sister was just being playful, but considering the deadliness of the traps, Ein wasn't so sure. To clear things up, Pina announced that anyone who hit a trap would simply be thrown out of the dungeon, so no actual life-threatening danger. Just then, an S-rank monster appeared, attempting to knock them out with sleeping gas. Unfortunately for the beast, Ian had a resistance skill, rendering the gas useless. Then, he was suddenly attacked out of nowhere, an enemy using stealth. But Ein also had an ambush nullification skill. On top of that, he had Fortress Mode activated, making him practically invincible. Pina was still convinced her stealth monsters wouldn't be detected, but Ursula had already pinpointed their locations. Ein took them down effortlessly, even copying their skills in the process. Poor Pina. But she wasn't done yet. She unleashed another wave of monsters. They died instantly. Realizing there was no stopping Ein, Pina slumped in defeat. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the same dungeon, Zoid, the notorious backstabber, was fuming. Ein had survived and exposed his betrayal to everyone, ruining his reputation. Making things worse, Jolene, his crime partner, played the victim card, claiming Zoid had forced her to paralyze Ein. As a result, all the blame fell squarely on Zoid. Desperate to redeem himself, Zoid took on an S-rank monster hunt mission, hoping a big victory would restore his standing. Unfortunately, he immediately fell into a spike trap and was thrown out of the dungeon. But Zoid refused to give up. He kept trying. Eventually, he stumbled upon a crocodile-like monster. It was way out of his league. Lena, his companion, told him to just give up. But even after the monster crushed his hand, Zoid refused to surrender. That's when Ein showed up. In a single swing, Ein effortlessly killed the monster. Zoid was in shock. Ein, however, simply healed Zoid, knocking him unconscious and asking Pina to eject him from the dungeon. Finally, Ian and his team reached the boss chamber. The only way to meet Pina was by defeating the final boss. However, defeating it would also seal off the world tree. Ursula reassured Ein that as long as the dungeon core remained intact, they wouldn't have any issues. Upon entering the chamber, Ein quickly realized something. The ground beneath them was the boss. They were standing on top of a massive turtle. Anne launched a fire spell at it, but it had no effect. The turtle counterattacked, but Ein fought back. Still, nothing seemed to be working. Then, Ein noticed something. Fireballs and water balls were hitting random spots in the room. Realizing the trick, he stood directly beneath the boss, waiting for it to attack. The moment it tried to crush him, he saw through the deception. Just an illusion. Dispersing the illusion, he finally saw the boss's real form, a tiny, adorable turtle. For once, Ain had defeated an enemy entirely on his own. However, upon using his appraisal skill, Ursula noticed something odd about the creature. But before she could say anything, Ain found himself unable to attack it. It just looked too cute and innocent. Instead of killing it, Ain turned to Pina and emotionally guilt-tripped her into surrendering. Defeated, Pina finally opened the door to her home, reuniting with Yuri after hundreds of years. Pina, of course, couldn't help but tease Yuri about having a crush on Ain. Yuri, too easy to read, was flustered, but deep down she was overjoyed to see her sister again. Then Pina asked if she could tag along with them. Yuri happily agreed, and Ain had no objections. Suddenly, the baby turtle transformed into a woman, Kuro, Pina's guardian. The moment Ursula saw her, she became visibly nervous, the most polite Ain had ever seen her. Ain asked Kuro for permission to take Pina with them. Surprisingly, Kuro had no objections, but in return, she wished to join them as well. She handed over her Philosopher's Stone, revealing that she possessed the barrier skill. Ain was more than happy to have her on board. As a final gift, Ain absorbed Pina's spirit core, leveling up his eye ability once again. Yuri was delighted, and even Ursula thanked him. With Pina now part of the team, they had 6 more sisters to find. But for now, their journey continued. Episode 4 ends here. Stay tuned for the next episode, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more updates. Until next time, take care.